Good morning, Grammy in the kitchen here. We're making a video on how I process my tomatoes. So, not going to see much of my face this morning. But anyway, okay, I start with an aluminum pan covered with parchment paper. Parchment paper is, you just don't want things sticking and ruining your pan. But if you have a real heavy gauge aluminum pan, things just wash off really easily, regardless if you have the parchment paper or not. Okay, I have my bowl for my scraps right here. It's gonna go to the turkeys and the chickens. They all love it. And then I have a number of my tomatoes here. So you're gonna start off, make sure you wash your tomatoes. I don't put any pesticides, herbicides, or any of that kind of pesticides on my plants. But wash them just to be sure. Make sure they're pretty ripe. And we will get started. So you have the stem end here, and you want to cut that out, and I use a paring knife, and we're just going to cut around that, and it exposes the inside. And I'm going to squeeze out the seeds. I'm not taking the skins off at all. I feel the skins are good for you, and they'll be all cooked up together. Now you split it open like this. You can see still a little bit of the core here. These little light white green spots, you want to just cut those out. And because they're hard, they may be bitter, a little pithy. And flatten out your tomato on your cooking sheet. Start with another one, pour it out. This particular one has the little point at the end. This isn't a Hungarian heart because it doesn't have that pinkish skin. This is, I think this is an Amish paste tomato. I had some cracking in here. I'm going to cut that out. Not so tasty. Squeeze out my seeds. Ooh, this is a very juicy one. Cut it down one side, spread it way out. Look at how meaty that one is. Oh, it's gonna be a tasty one. Take a little of that white out, and let's start with another one. There are a number of different ways to process your tomatoes. A lot of people dip them into boiling water, and then they can slip the seeds off. Or excuse me, slip the skins off. I'm just slipping the seeds out of this. Less seeds, the better, I guess. A few seeds won't hurt you. Good for your fiber and your digestion. Okay. Number of different ways. Anyway, so you dump it into hot boiling water for about 30 seconds. The skins kind of crack off of the tomato, and you plunge them into some cold water, and they slip right off. But in my way of doing it, I just eliminate that step because I'm going to food process these all together and make a smooth or a semi-smooth sauce out of it. This is a very thick-walled tomato. I like using these paste tomatoes because they don't have as much juice to them. What I'm going to be doing is processing them in the oven. And the oven is going to do the job of the boiling on the stove. The boiling on the stove is just going to evaporate all of the water that's in the tomatoes, so you have a less watery sauce. But I'm just going to let my oven do that. First, I'm going to stretch them out. The core here is thick on these. Take that white spot off. So I'm just making sure, I'm just kind of scoring it a little bit so the hot air of the oven will evenly hit all of the tomato. Squeeze out those seeds as much as you can. And flatten out your paste tomato. Most other, the paste tomatoes, as I said, are pretty thick-walled. Here's a spot, I'm gonna cut that off. It doesn't go deep into the tomato. Here's another little blemish. Paste tomatoes, thick-walled, lots of meat, little water. And that's why I like to use them. I'm gonna score this just a little bit. A few seeds left in here. It's not a big deal. Here's one has a little bit of a crack in it, but I'm gonna cut all that unripened part off because it's kind of yellowish green, not all that appetizing. But I suppose when it's all mixed together, who knows? Probably what those big processing plants do. Ooh, nice and meaty. Look at that guy. Okay, so a few seeds. There we are. So here's a tray of tomatoes. And now I do a little seasoning on these tomatoes before they go into an oven. They're gonna go into a 350 oven. And it's gonna take anywhere from, about an hour to an hour and a half at about 350. You can go lower, but it's gonna take a little bit more time. I've got a little sea salt here. I'm gonna sprinkle very lightly with the salt. Don't like to put too much salt on. Here I have my mixture of Italian herbs, which is thyme, oregano, rosemary, a few other things. Don't know if I put basil in here, but basil's one that could be in here. I take probably for a tray, I probably take a teaspoon or so and just sprinkle it ever so generously, I guess, over the top. Just lightly anyway. Take some pepper, because I don't have any pepper in the seasoning, and give it a crack of pepper over the top. Last thing I do is I put a little olive oil, little drizzle of olive oil over the top. Now, I am making sauce out of this. So sometimes I don't do any of this at all. It just depends what my outcome, what I intend to use this for. This is going to be sauce. After it comes out of the oven, I'll show you a few shots as it goes through its process in the oven. And I'll put it in the food processor and whirl it up, put it in jars, and can it. So, all right. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and I will see you back in about 30-35 minutes and give you an update on what it looks like. Here we are out of the oven after about 35 minutes. They're still pretty juicy, but they're coming along. I'm going to put them back in the oven for another 30 to 35. I'll pull them out and we'll see what they look like at that point, see if I think that they're ready for the next step. Okay, here we are. I took out the tray. You can see it's got a little bit of, the herbs are crusting up on the top, and underneath each one of these, you can see it's a little bit brown. Gives that extra little crispiness to the skin. So this is about how I like it for making sauce. So I have 2 more trays in the oven right now, and I'm waiting for them to get done. And then I will process them in the food processor, whirl them all up, and then I can either freeze it at that point into small little, portions, or I can can it, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to can it in pint jars. So If I want to make paste, like I have done in the past, I will let this go even longer because you want a lot more of the liquid out of this. There's still a bunch of liquid, which makes it good for sauce, but it's lost a good deal of its moisture. Not the flavor has intensified. So I will wait till the other two are done in the oven. I'll whirl it up in the food processor and you can see what it looks like then. Okay. Here we are in the next step, into the food processor. I just scooped them right off the tray into the food processor. Pulse them up, and voila, it is wonderful sauce. I like it a little on the chunky side. It's perfect. It's well seasoned with just the right blend. It'll be perfect for sauce now. So I have a few other containers in the refrigerator. I'm going to just start ladling. I gotta heat it all up, ladle it into hot jars, put it in my water bed canner, and process it so it will last downstairs on the shelves for a good year. If you don't like the skins, a way of taking the skins off that doesn't involve boiling water and dipping them in and then into cold water and slipping the skins and all those extra steps would be to just throw your whole tomatoes into the freezer. And then once they're frozen, thaw them out and the skins all crack and separate very easily. Now you can't then go and do my version because the whole structure of the tomato breaks down. But you can, the juice just comes out, then you could just do it on the stove, heat them up, mash them all up, and then preserve them whichever way you're going to do, either freezing them or canning them. But anyway, so that's how I do my my canning or my spaghetti sauce. I've made a few things of paste. I just let everything go longer and put it in the food processor when it's really has lost a lot of its moisture on the trays and it becomes very, very thick. I put it in small, shallow little containers. I freeze it, take it out of the containers, and just use those frozen cubes or little slabs, put them back in the freezer and use those one at a time. So anyway, I hope if you have the opportunity, you get to try this way. And if you come to Grammy's house, maybe we'll have spaghetti and meatballs with Grammy's spaghetti sauce. This might even be the batch that you're going to eat out of. All right. Happy processing.